The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, Volume 5 Review. Volume 4 of the Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess learn more into the fantasy side of the setting as it introduces elves and vampires. The end of the book also introduces us to the Knights of Schwartz, a group that exists to put the storyline of the world back in order, while Iana will get to enjoy a peaceful life with danger lurking around her every corner. At the end of Volume 4, Iana's companion Yumi was hurt in a fight with Kagura, a knight of Schwartz. So we begin this book with the group heading to the Guineford's family manor, where they hope to ask his ex-roommate Yatori to help in healing Yumi back to full health. Unfortunately for Iana, in the original story which she wrote, Yatori, as an evildoer who existed to seduce Konoha while Guineford was trapped in an eternal slumber, or if he wasn't. Yatori planned to duel to the death of Konoha's affections. Of course, Iana doesn't want Guineford to die in a duel with Yatori, especially to being her sister's fiancé, so she had to be on her best behavior to not attract Yatori's attention during her stay at the manor. Elsewhere, Servant Soul is beginning to worry about his inability to protect Iana and feeling guilty for suspecting she will ever plot to murder his sister Konoha. It could even be that Soul has found himself falling in love with Iana, which is good for her since he won't be looking to kill her anytime soon, but as far as the plotline of the original story goes, this is a significant division which may look to correct more no matter what it takes. On the wall, this volume is fairly focused on the new character Yatori and his relationship with Guineford, so Soul's storyline is only briefly touched on in a single chapter. As far as Yatori goes, he's not too dissimilar in personality to the other love interests we see introduced for Iana, but it does seem easier for our heroine the reason when with that Yomi he was first introduced back in Volume 2. It can be difficult to tell who's who if Soul also happens to be in a given scene, given they have very similar hairstyles, but luckily the author has given them quite different outfits, which easily helps unless the scenes are very close-up shots of their faces. Appreciate that this time around the author helped back in introducing any more fantasy elements, like in Volume 4, and instead focus on taking a break from the overarching story. The Knights of Schwartz are clearly intended to be the main antagonists, and I think taking this respite for the cast to recover and consider her next steps is what it needs to do most of all. But one thing readers may not appreciate this time around is that Guineford is starting to show he was romantic feelings for Iana as well. Despite being engaged to her sister, to Iana's credit, she does recognize this is probably the world trying to put itself back on track and does her best to reject his advances. But as recently of development I could have done without, and I think other may end up feeling the same. Hopefully it will be resurfacing in Volume 6. The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, Volume 5, comes to the West. Thanks to Yen Press, it continues to be translated by Lisa Kaufman, where lettering has changed hands for DK the Rachel J. Pearce. Both the translation and lettering rate well, with no issues to note. Volume 6 of the series is scheduled for release in October, and given the synthesis mentions ninjas, I think it will be for an interesting read there. Overall, Volume 5 of the Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess takes a step back for all the madness as the lady gives our cast a chance to rest and regain their strength. While I'm not completely aboard of some of the directions the story takes this time around, I'm still eager to see what's next for Iana. 7/10.